Blackwood Manor loomed ominously, a spectre against the desolate moors haunting the land, its stone facade cracked and weathered, windows like vacant eyes staring, a silent testament to unspeakable horrors long forgotten. The wind howled through the eaves, a mournful dirge echoing the sorrow trapped within. The manor stood alone, isolated, shrouded in an oppressive silence. It waited, a chilling reminder of a tortured past. Nightfall descended swiftly. Shadows stretched, twisting across the overgrown lawns, creeping. The manor seemed to sigh, a whisper of despair, a low groan of despair. The air grew heavy, laden with unseen menace. Blackwood Manor awaited its latest visitor. In eerie silence, unaware of the terror that awaited, they approached.
Blackwood Manor, they said, was haunted. Nonsense. Emma Collins had heard the rumours, the whispers of ghostly apparitions and eerie sounds that filled the night. But to her, it was all just that. Rumours. Stories concocted to scare children and entertain the gullible. She had no time for such frivolities.
Emma Collins, a young journalist, scoffed at the stories. She had built her career on debunking myths and exposing the truth. Superstitions and ghost stories were her bread and butter, but she never believed a word of them. Her job was to bring facts to light, to show the world that there was a logical explanation for everything. She parked her car, a splash of colour against the manor's gloom. The bright red of her vehicle stood in stark contrast to the dark, foreboding structure of Blackwood Manor. It was almost as if her presence alone could dispel the shadows that clung to the old building. Emma was a woman of logic. Ghosts and ghouls held no sway over her. She had faced down more intimidating challenges in her career and had always emerged victorious. This assignment would be no different. She was here to uncover the truth, to show that Blackwood Manor was just another old house with a few creaky floorboards and drafty windows. She grabbed her bag, a confident smirk playing on her lips. Inside were all the tools she needed, a camera, a voice recorder, and a notebook filled with questions. She was ready to document every corner of the manor, to capture every sound and sight that might explain the so-called hauntings. This would be an easy story, a debunking of local myths. She had done it countless times before, and she would do it again. The people of the town would soon see that there was nothing to fear, that their imaginations had simply run wild. She approached the imposing oak doors. The brass knocker gleamed, cold and unwelcoming. It was a relic from another time, a piece of history that had seen countless visitors come and go. Emma wondered how many of them had been as skeptical as she was, and how many had left with their beliefs unchanged.
This would be an easy story. She repeated the thought to herself, a mantra to keep her focused. She had a job to do, and she wouldn't let a few ghost stories get in the way.
A gust of wind slammed the doors open. The sudden force took her by surprise, but she quickly regained her composure. It was just the wind, she told herself, nothing more. Emma shivered, a sudden chill gripping her heart. The temperature seemed to drop several degrees in an instant, and she wrapped her coat tighter around her. It was just the cold, she reasoned. Old houses were always drafty. The entrance hall yawned before her, dark and silent. The vast space seemed to swallow the light, leaving only shadows in its wake. Emma took a deep breath and stepped forward, her footsteps echoing in the emptiness. She stepped inside, the door groaning shut behind her. The sound reverberated through the hall, a low, mournful wail that sent a shiver down her spine. She shook it off, determined to stay focused. The air hung heavy, thick with the scent of decay and something else. Something ancient and evil. It was a smell she couldn't quite place, a mix of mold and rot and something more sinister. She wrinkled her nose and pressed on. Emma shook off the feeling. She wouldn't be swayed by atmosphere alone. She had a job to do, and she would see it through to the end, no matter what. She set up her camera, positioning it to capture the entire room. If there was anything to see, she would catch it on film. She started her voice recorder, speaking clearly into the microphone. Emma Collins, Blackwood Manor, October 31st, beginning investigation. She took out her notebook and began to jot down her observations. The creaking floorboards, the drafty windows, the strange smells. Everything would be documented, analyzed, and explained. Emma moved through the dark corridors, her flashlight cutting through the gloom. Every so often she would stop to listen, to take a note or snap a photo. The house was old, but it was just a house. There was nothing here that couldn't be explained. In one of the rooms she found an old dusty book. The pages were yellowed with age, the cover worn and faded. She opened it carefully, scanning the contents. It was a journal filled with the ramblings of someone who had once lived here. The entries spoke of strange occurrences, of things that went bump in the night. But to Emma it was just the imagination of a lonely soul. She closed the book and continued her investigation. She wouldn't be swayed by old stories and dusty journals. She was here for the truth, and she would find it. Suddenly she heard a noise, a soft, almost imperceptible whisper. She turned, her flashlight sweeping the room, but there was nothing there. Just the wind, she told herself, just the wind. Emma steeled herself. She wouldn't let a few noises scare her off. She had a job to do, and she would see it through, no matter what. She pressed on, determined to uncover the truth. Blackwood Manor was just an old house, and she would prove it. She would show the world that there was nothing to fear, that the stories were just that, stories. As she explored further, she found a hidden door. It was tucked away behind a bookshelf, almost invisible. She pushed it open, revealing a narrow passageway. Her heart raced with excitement. This was it. The truth was just beyond this door. Emma stepped into the passage, her flashlight illuminating the way. The air was colder here, the smell of decay stronger, but she pressed on, her determination unwavering. She would find the truth, no matter what it took. At the end of the passage, she found a hidden room. It was small and cramped, filled with old furniture and forgotten relics. But there, in the corner, was something that made her blood run cold. A figure, shrouded in darkness, watching her. Emma took a step back, her heart pounding in her chest. This was it, the moment of truth. She raised her camera, ready to capture whatever came next. She was a skeptic, a woman of logic, but in that moment she couldn't deny the fear that gripped her heart. She took a deep breath and stepped forward. She wouldn't let fear control her. She was here for the truth, and she would find it, no matter what. Emma raised her camera, her hand steady. She would capture this moment, document it for the world to see. She was a journalist, a seeker of truth, and she wouldn't let anything, not even a ghost, stand in her way. As she left Blackwood Manor, she felt a sense of accomplishment. She had faced her fears, uncovered the truth, and documented it all. The world would see that there was nothing to fear, that the stories were just that, stories. And she, Emma Collins, had proven it. She drove away, a smile on her lips. She had done it. She had debunked the myths and shown the world the truth. Blackwood Manor was just an old house, and she had the evidence to prove it. She was a skeptic, a woman of logic, and she had won. The Blackwood family, once prominent and wealthy, had met a gruesome end within these walls. Their legacy, now shrouded in mystery and tragedy, was a stark contrast to the opulence they once enjoyed. The walls of the manor, now silent, were once filled with laughter and joy, a testament to their high social standing and influence in the community. A century ago they were brutally murdered, their killer never found. The investigation, plagued by dead ends and false leads, left the townsfolk in a state of perpetual unease. The mansion, once a symbol of prosperity, became a haunting reminder of the unsolved crime that shook the very foundation of the town. The story whispered in hushed tones, a stain on the history of the manor. Generations passed, but the tale of the Blackwood family's demise remained a chilling bedtime story, a cautionary tale for the curious and the brave. The whispers grew into legends, each retelling adding a new layer of fear and intrigue. The townsfolk claimed their spirits remained, seeking justice or perhaps revenge. Some said they saw ghostly figures wandering the halls at night, their faces twisted in anguish. Others spoke of strange noises, disembodied voices calling out in the dead of night, and objects moving on their own. But Emma dismissed these as new folklore, the ramblings of superstitious minds. She was a woman of reason, grounded in reality, and had no time for ghost stories. To her, the mansion was just an old, abandoned house, nothing more. She walked through the manor, her footsteps echoing in the silence. The air was cold, and the shadows seemed to dance around her. Each step she took seemed to stir the dust, as if the house itself was waking from a long slumber. Each room was a tableau of gilt, dust-covered furniture, cobwebs draping from the chandeliers. The once grand rooms were now filled with decay, a stark reminder of the passage of time and the fleeting nature of life. The air was thick with the weight of the past, as if the walls themselves whispered the family's tragic tale. The cracked walls seemed to hold secrets, stories of love, loss, and betrayal waiting to be uncovered by those brave enough to listen. Emma paused, a chill crawling up her spine. She could have sworn she heard a whisper. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it was there. A voice from the past, reaching out to her, trying to tell her something. A faint sigh carried on the breeze. It was as if the house itself was breathing, exhaling a long-held secret. Emma stood still, her heart pounding in her chest, as she tried to make sense of what she had just experienced. The mansion, once a place of grandeur, was now a silent witness to a century-old mystery, waiting for someone to uncover the truth.
This is ridiculous.
She muttered, shaking off the feeling. The house seemed to breathe around her, its ancient walls whispering secrets she couldn't quite catch. She wouldn't let the atmosphere get to her. She had a job to do, and she was determined to see it through. The stories she'd heard about this place were chilling, but she needed to see for herself. She was here for a story that could make her career, or at the very least, satisfy her insatiable curiosity about the unknown. A story about a haunted house. But she needed proof. Proof that the legends were true, that the spirits of the past still lingered in the shadows of this decrepit mansion. Evidence beyond the eerie ambience. She needed something tangible, something that would convince even the most skeptical of minds. Emma pulled out her camera. The weight of it in her hands was reassuring, a tool to capture the truth hidden in the darkness. She started documenting the manor, its decaying grandeur, hoping to capture something, anything. The peeling wallpaper, the broken furniture, the cobwebs that seemed to stretch for miles. The further she ventured, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. The air grew colder. Each step echoed through the empty halls, a reminder of the solitude that enveloped her. Her breath misting in the dim light filtering through grimy windows. She felt a presence, watching her, following her every move. It was as if the house itself was alive, aware of her intrusion. Emma quickened her pace, her heart pounding in her chest. The feeling of being watched grew stronger, more insistent. She couldn't shake the sensation that something was just out of sight, lurking in the shadows. She just needed to get to the next room. Maybe there she would find the answers she was looking for, or at the very least a momentary respite from the suffocating fear. Escape the suffocating feeling that clung to her. The weight of the secrets this house held was almost too much to bear, but she couldn't turn back now, not when she was so close to uncovering the truth. In the next room she found an old journal, its pages yellowed with age. She opened it, hoping to find some clue, some hint of the house's past. The words were faded, but she could make out fragments of a story of love, loss, and betrayal, a story that seemed to mirror her own journey through the house. As she read, the pieces began to fall into place, the whispers, the cold spots, the feeling of being watched. It all made sense now. The house was not just haunted by spirits, but by the memories of those who had lived and died within its walls. Emma closed the journal, a new determination in her eyes. She would uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The weight of the secrets she carried was heavy, but she was ready to face whatever lay ahead. With renewed resolve, she continued her exploration. The house seemed to pulse with energy, as if it knew she was getting closer to the heart of its mystery. She was no longer just a visitor, she was a part of the story now. In a dark corner she found a hidden door, its edges barely visible in the dim light. She hesitated for a moment, then reached out and opened it. The air inside was even colder, and she could feel the weight of the secrets that lay beyond. Stepping into the hidden room, she felt a sense of awe. This was it, the heart of the house's mystery, the place where the past and present collided. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, ready to uncover the truth. Emma's heart raced as she stepped into the hidden room, the culmination of her search. The air was frigid and the darkness seemed to press in from all sides. Her flashlight flickered, casting unsettling shadows on the ancient walls. She felt the weight of the house's secrets bearing down on her, but she was determined to see this through. As she moved deeper into the room, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. They spoke of love lost, of betrayal, of lives ended too soon. The ghosts of Blackwood Manor were all around her, their presence palpable. Emma could feel their eyes on her, watching her every move. The fear was suffocating, but she couldn't turn back now. Her breath came in shallow gasps, each step echoing through the empty halls. The sound of footsteps followed her, but when she turned, there was nothing there. The shadows seemed to move on their own, shifting and swirling in the dim light. She could feel the house's malevolent energy building, as if it were aware of her intrusion. Emma's resolve began to waver. She needed to get out, now. She turned and ran, her footsteps pounding against the wooden floors. The whispers grew louder, more frantic, as if the spirits were trying to warn her or perhaps curse her. The walls seemed to close in, the corridors twisting and turning in ways that defied logic. She could see the front door ahead, the promise of freedom just within reach. But as she neared the exit, a chilling voice whispered in her ear, "You can never truly leave." The word sent a shiver down her spine, freezing her in place. The door seemed to recede into the distance, the hallway stretching impossibly long. With a final burst of determination, Emma sprinted towards the door, her hand outstretched. She could feel the icy grip of the spirits trying to pull her back, but she fought against it with all her strength. Her fingers brushed the doorknob and she yanked it open, the cold night air rushing in. She stumbled outside, collapsing onto the ground. The whispers faded, replaced by the sounds of the night. She was free, but as she looked back at the manor, she knew the voice was right. She could never truly leave. The secrets of Blackwood Manor would haunt her forever. The screen fades to black, leaving the audience with a sense of unease and lingering fear.